Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Waiting Room, the show that challenges you to thrive, not just survive in every area of your life. This is your host, Ruem, and in this podcast, we'll be talking about the realities of waiting in every season of life. How we wait is more important than the wait itself, so waiting well is what matters. In this episode, I'll be talking about adapting to change. Today's topic was actually inspired by a listener, so thank you for all your feedback, and specifically one of my older sisters, Glenda. So we had a conversation about all the happenings of 2020, the ups and downs, and how we both noticed that some people did not or were not adapting well to the changes that were occurring in their lives. Now, change is inevitable, so the problem is not that life is constantly evolving and changing and throwing us surprises, but it's how we cope and how we adapt to said changes that will either make us or break us. So I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm tired of referring to 2020 because I feel like it's becoming cliche, but last year was a very unique year, and I think everybody can agree on that. It was challenging for everybody on different levels. Some people's lives were impacted more than others, but it's safe to say that everybody, regardless of where you are in life and your life stage and what happened, was affected significantly. I came across a quote and it said, "We are not in the same boat. We are in the same storm, but different boats." And this is so true because a lot of times you hear, "Oh, we're in the same boat. We're in this together." Okay, yes, we might be experiencing the macro changes together, but because of where we are in life, our situation, our resources, our income, our backgrounds, our neighborhoods, all of that will change how we can adapt to what's going on. So even though we were all experiencing the pandemic together, not everybody had the same trials or the same burdens. So some people have more resources than others, and some people lost jobs, some didn't. Some people lost loved ones, some didn't. So we were all at different places with that. And I think it's important to remember that, so that way we don't lose touch, because it's easy just to kind of brush off like, "Oh, we all had a hard year, you just get over it." But if you just take the time to, especially the people around you, and just talk to them, you'll realize, some people really had a tough year. And if you just build that bridge and that relationship with them and, hear their side of their story, let them share their experience, and you can also learn from that as well. So this got me thinking and asking, why do some people adapt to life's changes better than others? And, how we adapt, not being able to go with the flow, can make the process more traumatic. We need to let go of the notion of being in total control of everything at all times, because we are not. We really don't have much control of every aspect of our lives. Things can change. The economy can change. Your job situation can change. Your relationship status can change. So control is an illusion, because when we think things are going well as we planned, we prepped everything, we got all our ducks in a row, we think we're in control, and we're these perfect people. And then when chaos strikes, we freak out because this isn't what we were planning on. We can't predict the outcome, and we don't know how things are going to turn out because they're not going by the script. So sometimes 2 + 2 does not always equal 4, and that just messes with our minds. But that's okay. 2 + 2 in life will not always equal 4, and that's perfectly fine, unless of course you're taking a math test. So the important thing is that you just learn to assess what's going on, and there's different types of changes. So some changes will affect us directly, some indirectly, and then some are just neutral. They are happening, the moment will pass, and then it'll be as if nothing ever occurred. And then just find where you fall in that spectrum and respond appropriately. So when these changes occur, they're either going to make us or break us. So by make us, either we're going to learn from the experience, we acquire some knowledge, it could be a good lesson or a bad lesson, and we just take that experience, put it in our pocket, or save it for another time down the road when we need to draw from that experience. Or they can break us. We could emotionally shut down or just relationally shut down and disconnect from the reality of what's going on and refuse to accept the change and learn from that change. Having a year like we did in 2020, I'm sure it was revealing of your character, like what you're made of. Did you crumble, or did you survive, or did you thrive? And then you might have done very well in one area. So let's say you lost a job, but you decided to hone in on your skill and use that as a source of income, and then you started a new business. But then you might have not done so well in another area, being isolated from loved ones. There's some relationships that are now strained because of that. So, it just depends where you are, but a lot of the external happenings forced us to come to terms with who we are and make internal changes. So how does one cope with sudden changes? Well, first I'll say just stop and breathe. Not everything that's happening needs an immediate response. Okay, so if it's life-threatening and you need to call emergency services, yes, then do that. Be quick about it. But a lot of times, if you just sort of stop, take a breath, and then observe and absorb, look at what's going on, take it in, assess the situation, and then be logical. Think of the possible solutions and the possible outcomes to the problem that you're facing before you take action. Because if you take action prematurely, you might end up doing or saying the wrong thing, and it might be harder to undo when the dust settles. My next coping mechanism is adjusting your expectations. Let's be realistic, people. When the whole world is on lockdown, shut down, and is on a standstill, there are some things that you are just not going to do normally, and you just have to accept that and not have these unrealistic expectations of having 5-star service wherever you go, as if the whole world is not thrown into turmoil. So a lot of times, adjusting your expectations, and not just for coping with change, but in every other areas. In your mind, you're like, okay, I need to run these errands, I need to do A, B, and C, go to the store, do that. But then when you do go out, you realize, oh, this store is closed, or the hours are changed because of, what's going on. Now, you could either throw a fit, or you could just say, okay, fine, I'll just come back when they're open. People were so on edge, and there still are, but there's so many incidences of people just going off and they're not adapting well. So these are not normal circumstances. So you just have to, and I keep saying this, but you just have to go with the flow, because it's not always going to be like that, and it's going to change. So you don't want to do something or say something that will last longer than the moment itself. There's no need to throw a fit because your favorite store closed at 5 instead of 6:30, or you are not able to get a specific service because they're understaffed, or you get my drift. But adjusting your expectations will save you a lot of headache. Another way of coping with change is to not stress about what is out of your control while neglecting what you do have control of. So don't waste your energy on situations that you can't help. You or a family member getting sick or getting laid off, but instead focus your energy on what you can do. And so, if you're unwell, get and take care of your body. If you are jobless, start looking for jobs or freelance or do whatever you can do in the meantime, instead of just focusing on the things that you can't do. Another thing is to address the problem itself and not the feelings. So feelings are so fickle. They go up and down. They change with the atmosphere, whatever is going on, wherever you are in the moment, your feelings will change. Whereas the problem itself will be consistent. So try to solve the problem, not how you feel about it. And that will help you with adjusting to that change. Next is try to find the humor. Life is so unpredictable. Life is so serious, but sometimes laughter is the best medicine. And try to find the humor in whatever situation you're going through, and that will honestly help you cope. And lastly, for me, which is the biggest one, is praying. Prayer has carried me through so much. Just being able to talk to God, talking to somebody who can actually do something about everything, helps. And just knowing that God's always there listening and He wants to help me. I don't know where you are, so if you are not a praying person, you might want to consider, getting right with your Creator, building that relationship, and He will help you through. But if you are a praying person, lean on that. And there's a peace that comes with knowing that, I don't have control of everything, but I know somebody who does, and that's my Heavenly Father, and He will take care of me. One of my favorite scriptures is in Proverbs. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight." So with everything going on and uncertainties, if you just trust God, He will guide you and He will make sure you end up where you need to be. It might not be what you think, for yourself, but He will put you exactly where you need to be and guide you through it all. Now, just from my personal experience, I have always been able to adapt very well to change. And I don't know if it's because of how I was raised or if it's just genetics. I don't know, but we moved a lot growing up because of my mom's job. We lived in different countries. Every few years we were moving. So you learn very quickly at a young age how to assimilate and how to adapt and how to sort of fit in, or, you're always a new person. And in some places it's a new language, new culture. Everything is polar opposite of how you were raised. It was almost as if you didn't have time to stress about the anxiety of being the new person or being different, because everybody else there is different as well. So I managed to cope with change very well, but I know not a lot of people can say that. Some people have major anxiety, and that's a real thing. And they can't, if anything changes, it just throws them off. Their whole world is turned upside down, and they're just trying to get their bearings. And I know 2020 was fairly smooth for me for the most part. No significant changes. I luckily have a job where I work from home, and I have been working from home for almost 8 years. So as far as the quarantine life, that was just everyday life for me. But, there were some other challenges as well, getting sick and then losing a parent and all of that. You just kind of have to go through and, be in the moment and learn how to move on with the changes that have occurred in your life. So I want to challenge you this week, look at your life. What season are you in? Are you buying a home or downsizing? Are you changing careers? Are you in between jobs? Are you starting a new relationship or ending a relationship? Did you become a parent? Are you moving to a different town, a city, or country? So I know there's a wide range of listeners, everybody in different life stages, but how are you coping? Do you need to adjust your expectations? I think if you just learn to adjust your expectations, or sometimes not even having expectations, will help you as well. And just learn to go with the flow, find the humor in everything, and just pray and trust God. That's what I would challenge you for this week and the next few weeks, or whatever challenge or change does come your way in the near future, just laugh about it, pray about it, and just go with the flow. So for this episode, I'd like to recommend a book that was recommended by my sister, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode. This is Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. So this is a little bit different from what I have been recommending, but it is such a good book talking about what we're talking about, changing, and it's kind of like a parable of 4 characters. They're in this maze, and I don't want to give too much away, but they're in this maze, just going through life, and then what they learn and how they're coping with the changes going on in life. So the link is in the description. I recommend it. It's a short read, so it will be a good one for you. And that is it for today, folks. I would like to thank you for joining me here in the waiting room. Look out for my next episode. In the meantime, please share this podcast with anyone and everyone who you think would like to listen. I'd love to hear your feedback. I've been getting some feedback and I like it. Please keep it coming. You can email me at thewaitingroom@gmail.com or follow me on Instagram at The Waiting Room and leave me a message there. Until then, take care.